Alright, so let me just double check the volume. Alright, so let me just double check the volume. Great. So, based on the economic calendar, we have a news driver at 10 a.m. later on. Personally, I'm not trading today because we have already reached our higher time frame objectives, and even if I was to force a trade, it's gonna be taking longs into the daily volume imbalance. That's my only objective. And when you look at the price action like this, basically it's a seek and destroy day. So I'm watching how price performs today, and what I'm anticipating is that it's gonna run for the sell side first into the new day opening gap, and then it's gonna run higher into the daily volume imbalance to close out the week. Okay, so on the weekly candle, right now we are above 20%. 30% would be somewhere around the daily volume imbalance. Okay, so because price is at the levels here, I'm not too interested in trading TGIF today. So that's the whole context. So heading down into the 60 minutes, right? Nothing here except for maybe this order block and this CB. Okay, right, 15 minutes. Asia highs was taken, Asia lows was left. London's low was taken, but it has left Asia's low. So I believe the low here it's going to be attacked either by the news or 9:30. Okay, if you want to play with the strength on of the higher time frame, then maybe you would like to wait to see if 9:30 presents a Judas swing above the highs here, and then trade down lower into this new day opening gap. Okay, so I'm gonna mark out Asia's low, which would be Asia's opening price is the low. Okay, so Asia's low is right here, and we have London's high. I'm not gonna mark that out. Right. Let's see what else. AM session quarters. So we have expansion in Q1, Q2 reversal, Q3 as I am anticipating, we're gonna run up higher first. Okay, that would be my bias. Okay, if it can run up higher first, that would be nice for shorts into this area here. Okay, into Asia's low basically. So let's see if that happens. If 9:30 to 9:45 runs below Asia's low, then in that case, I would treat that as manipulation. So right here, true open, took out buy stops, shifted lower. Okay, so judging from the market structure on the 1 minute, it seems like it wants Asia's low first, prior to the news. Okay, so this is going to be paper trading, yeah. S&P and YM has already traded below into the new day opening gap for S&P and lower lows for Dow Jones. Okay, so for NQ, I suppose it's gonna be the Six Sisters concept. So right at this candle, if you're bearish like my position is, I want to see this green candle, these two up close candles traded through. Okay, and then a closing price below these two up close candles. Okay, so as you can see here, trading within Q2 would be tricky, especially before 9:30, which is why I always prefer to trade within Q3 of Q3. right? So let's see what happens. As I've mentioned before, my best trade bias would be trading into this daily volume imbalance. Okay, mentioned this right from the start of the stream, right? So just a just a heads up. Right, and at the same time, this candle did not close below these two up close candles. So this is your invalidation, the closing price of this candle. And also at the same time, whenever there is news at 10 a.m., I would try my best to not get ahead of the news. Okay, I'll just let the news do what it needs to do, and then from there I analyze what's gonna happen next. Alright, so right now we have S&Ps on the highs against ES and Dow Jones. In this case, I'm going to anticipate that the news is going to be distribution. So right now I am watching this low here. If price makes a higher high above this swing high, I would be watching this low here. Right now the markets are decoupled, okay, so low probability conditions. So from my own experience, during decoupled conditions, you would much prefer to trade in the direction that you are, how do I put it in words? You want to trade with the direction of strength in that market that you have decided to trade. So let's just say I have decided to trade on Nasdaq, okay, and it's not showing any willingness to seek lower prices. I would prefer to long Nasdaq, okay, but if I was to be trading on ES and it's showing signs of weakness, then I would much prefer to short ES, okay. So that is what happens during decoupled markets, okay? Unless Nasdaq is showing willingness to catch up to the two other averages, then in that case, that would be ICT's sister concept. Okay, now I'm watching this low here, okay, because the bodies of the candles are above, okay? Ignoring the wicks here, you can see that it's a higher high based on the body of the candle. No executions before 10 a.m. That would be my basic rule for trading news drivers that are scheduled at 10 a.m. Usually for 10 a.m. news, Q4 executions are always better. Okay, so you don't really have to execute right after the news. You can just wait for Q4 to look for an entry. And sometimes it might be a manipulation and then you get the Q4 reversal. So you just have to be slightly cautious of 10 a.m. news. Can you tell me, is the Asian session of Nasdaq X or A? I'm sorry, I just saw your question. Okay, Asia session. Well, to me, Asia looks pretty much like an X. Okay. Um, how do I judge it? I judge it by the opening price and the closing price. Okay, so there was distance between the opening price and the closing price. So this was the range in Asia, right? So even though it have consolidated over here, you saw this exponential movement upwards, okay, before consolidation. So I am treating this as an X, which is why we have accumulation during London. Okay, look at the opening price for London. It's smaller in range as compared to Asia session. So right now um, during the New York session, it's reasonable to anticipate some form of expansion as well. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Right, I forgot to mark out the true opens. Okay, so right now we are heading into the macro 950 to 1010. Okay, ICT's macro. So any closing price below here, this low, I'm gonna consider that as a shift in market structure, because we are in Q3 and we are in the macro session. I mean the macro cycle. So right now, basically I'm just waiting for 10 a.m. Okay, so no rush here. Even though this looks really enticing, right? If a fair value gap forms here, this is like breaker, fair value gap, order block, sweeps of buy stocks. So something like 2022 mentorship, but for me, I would much prefer to wait for the news to drop. Right, so we have a fair value gap right here. Okay, so in the past, I would think that This is going to be the setup, and if I don't take it, I'm going to miss it. Okay, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so let's just say hypothetically I took this setup here, right? Short, and then my stop loss would be right up here, this candle. Right, look at how it runs against me. There's one more fair value gap down here as well. Okay, and then there's one more fair value gap here as well. So right here, it doesn't look convincing, right? So it's always better to wait for 10 a.m. news. So just like what I did prior to 9:30 as well. In the past, I would thought that I'm gonna miss a move and I'm gonna enter right here, and then as you can see, I was stopped out. So just stick to the rules, and the accuracy is gonna improve. Right, so now we have a fair value gap in in the potential BPR. Okay, so this could be your inversion. So right now, if I'm short, I'm not too confident about this price action here. Okay, so similar to yesterday's price action, if you're bearish, you want to see this fair value gap here, busy, traded through on a closing basis. Hi, I'm good. Thanks for asking. So right here is what you want to see, okay? But the fact that we are 5 minutes before the news, this is really not a good time to enter the markets, okay? If it trades through this BPR once again, I'm gonna disregard this PD array. Okay, so let me repeat. If it trades through this PDA again, I am not going to refer back to this anymore. Okay, so I would discard this PD array. Because the fact that price is not showing any respect of this level here, of this PDA here. Okay, so right now, as you can see, price is traded through again. I'm gonna discard this PDA. I'm gonna wait for something else. So just a gentle reminder, my main objective for today is the daily volume imbalance, okay? That's the main objective for today. Alright, so as you can see here, the 5 minutes looks pretty disgusting. Okay, nothing much you can say about the price action here. It's just chopping around. Okay, so right now you can see that this down close candle, it's your bullish order block, and this candle right here could be your potential proportion on the block. Okay, but I would much prefer to use this bullish order block. This is if everything is normal, okay, which means no decoupling, no news drivers at 10. Okay, that's how I would utilize this candle right here. Right now I'm just waiting, just 1 more minute, 30 more seconds to go. Okay, so we have traded all the way to the high, the highest fair value gap within this dealing range here. So right now let's see if it wants to run below this swing low. So if you're bearish, you want this to be disrespected, this on the block here. Right, so now you want to see if this candle holds the price, because this is your bearish order block. So you do not want to see any candles closing above the mean threshold of this order block here, if you're bearish, okay? So the mean threshold would come in right about 4318.25. volume imbalance. Alright, so ES and Dow Jones is dropping on the news. Nasdaq, it's refusing to do so. Okay. If you're bearish as well, you want to see this up close candle traded through. Okay, so small little fair value gap right here, coupled with the mean threshold. Okay, if you're bearish, this is your last line of defense here. You want to see the price drop. Okay, not doing something like this. Right, so the news looks like a manipulation for ES and Dow Jones. Trading above this on the block here, that would validate a run into the volume daily volume imbalance, okay, for Nasdaq. Right, so on the next candle, I'm gonna buy um, any wicks to the downside, any price below the next candle's opening price. Okay, I much prefer it to come back into this area here. Okay, if I don't get it, then right here, this fair value gap here, basically this high. Okay, if I can get that, that would be nice. Okay, we have a fair value gap forming down here as well. Right, so here and here. My stop it's below this candle. Would like it to stay open. This acting as a breakaway gap. Okay, my entry is basically the high of this fair value gap. So here, it's too small. I can't seem to. Yes. Okay. Now I want to see speed above this high. right? So it went like one tick above it. I don't really want to see this low taken out, and no closing price below this level here. 50% of the wick, it's all I want to see it trade to, and then I want to see a strong reaction away, right? So the invalidation would be any closing price below this inversion fair value gap. Okay, so right here I'm gonna cut my position because we have a candle closing below this inversion fair value gap. Okay, so the next candle's opening price, I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna add one more right here. Okay, no closing above this BBR here. You can see how tricky this price action is, which is why I'm not trading today. Okay, so invalidation would be this high here. I want to see speed in Q4, okay? So basically I would be targeting this low here. I'll take out 2. I can do that. Then I'll have to do this by 2 limit. That would be AM sessions low. Okay, last order here. Needs to drop after taking out this high. If this doesn't drop, then obviously I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to get stopped out right here. Right? As you can see. Very tricky price action here. Okay. So the reason why, it's because price has already met its higher time frame objectives. And if you try to finesse the markets here like this during a decoupled market, and then you are shorting a market that is strong as compared to the other two markets, then it's going to be very problematic. Right? So these are all the mistakes that I used to make, which is why I am avoiding days like this. See how much you would have, I would have lost if I was to trade a live account. Okay, so obviously these are all 5 contracts, right? And you could have limited your losses to this levels here. So this last loss was because of that oversized position. Okay, so right here, okay, hold me, I'll try the long again. Stops below here, this low here. Okay, when it reaches inside, I'm gonna long one more time. Okay, and then this right here, the last entry, closing price below here, I'm gonna reverse again. You see how difficult this is. Right? And it has taken buy stops here. So the most what do you call that, the most obvious liquidity would be down here. Okay, but because it has been stopping me out in shorts, and then now I'm switching longs, it's gonna run against me yet one more time again. Okay, so it's very, very problematic. And if you take a look at the 5 minutes, this is just trash. Okay, you don't want to trade in market conditions like this, or price structure like this. And this is when days or any kinds of concept, ICT concepts as well, fails in this type of days. Okay, it's very hard for you to gauge where the price is going to go. So basically a high resistance liquidity run. So right here I'll be thinking, okay, since there's no closing price below, I'm gonna stick to my bias, even though there is a CB down here with a order block. Okay, you can see it's gonna run against me, I think. Unless ES and Dow Jones, one of them can close their 15 minutes above the current 15 minutes CB, then probably I'm gonna be right in this trade here, right? But so far it is showing respect of that CB so far. But the problem with them is that their candle closing prices are not below the previous swing low, meaning the AM session's low. Okay, let me just show you what I mean. Right here, you can see this CB on the 50 minutes, and then this low here. No candle body closures below the low yet. Okay, so this is very, how to say, it's like a 50-50 market. And then you have this structure here on the 1 minute. Okay, so right here, shift in market structure yet again, and then you have this CB respected. So you see, it's gonna run against me, right? There you have it. So this is gonna take up a lot of your mental capacity if you are gonna trade in this environment, right? You're gonna exit the session in a very drain. How do you call it? Drain. You're feeling drained basically. Okay, no mood for anything else. Yes. This is why. Right. I'm reading your comments right now. Okay. So this is why I am avoiding trading today. Okay, because higher time frames has been met, and even though you have a strong bias towards one side or another, it might take really really long to play out. Okay, it's basically ICT's high resistance liquidity runs. So you don't really want to be in this type of situations. Okay, getting chopped up and down, up and down. So I think we're going to 1426, 1426. But yes, already went to the new day, so yeah. That's why I waited. I'm entering into a fair value gap. Yes, looks bullish, targeting two perfectly pull highs. Right, so regardless of the bias today, these conditions are shit. Okay, so right here, what do we have? We have the lows here, and then price has already taken out the highs. So most likely it's going to come down to this low, but because it's a decoupled market, as I've mentioned, it's really really difficult to trade, right? Look at this. So Nasdaq, it's preventing, okay, manual intervention, as ICT would have explained it. So manual intervention is preventing Nasdaq from going lower. Okay, right. So that explains today's price action. Even though there is red news drivers, you might get this type of days even with news drivers. So being selective on the days are really really important. Right, so don't forget my objective, it's here. Okay, right from the start I am much preferring longs, but as you can see, what happens if you just follow through market structure right here. Okay, it's gonna chop you up, leave you dragged. Right, so nothing is happening in Q4 just yet, right? No expansions. It's just stuck within this range. Okay. So in this type of situations, once you identify that it's most probably going to be a high resistance liquidity runs, or you find that the PD arrays are not getting respected as much as it should, then it's a warning, right, to stop trading for the day, right, and not try to cover your losses on the same, at least during the same session itself. Right, so a few more minutes and this session will end, and um, we'll see how it plays out eventually. I think at during the PM session. Okay, so yeah, let me see if there's anything noteworthy. Right, so far I don't see anything. Right, so if you are following fair value gap, I mean not fair value gap, but fair value God's Twitter, he mentions that if you're just trading ICT based on the patterns that he have introduced, patterns in terms of like models and stuff like that, if you're just trading based off of those, you are basically trading like a retail, and I could not agree more, as I have shown you today how it can wreck you. Okay, so having context and narrative, it's the utmost priority to build and to how do you say, it's a skill to hone first before even engaging in um, the models presented or the models used. Okay, right. If you have been with ICT long enough, throughout all his sessions, he's basically building context and narrative. It's very little have to do with the models and entries It's all about where the price is going and why is it supposed to go this area during this point in time. Okay, it's you would realize it some I mean you realize it if you went through it. He usually just skim through the entries, or he would just leave it for the reviews. But during the live streams, he's basically trying to build context and narrative as to why price should go this side and should go up or go down. Okay. All right, so it's 10:30, and obviously Nasdaq wasn't permitted to move. So I'm gonna end my live stream here, but I'm just gonna double check something with um, one of the guys in the Telegram. Not sure if he's still watching. Let me just double check. Okay, I think it's not watching anymore. So I'm gonna cut the session here, and I will see you in the next one.